I was extremely happy to get on the ferry to Newfoundland because this is something I'd thought about since I was maybe 10 years old. The ferry takes 16 hours and overnight, and it wasn't too bad. It was as comfortable as it could be. The boat was a Greek boat, and all the power plugs were Greek, except for there was one power bar. So I was able to charge up my batteries and my laptop, and also watch a movie. And then there were showers too, so that was pretty good. This is a summer seasonal ferry for tourists that goes to Argentia, and there's another ferry that's close to 7 or 6 hours that runs year round to Port au Bras, but that's about a day's worth drive away. So even though this cost more and took longer, overall it was shorter and allowed me to do more of a complete loop of Newfoundland without backtracking. Just near the ferry terminal was the Castle Hill National Historic Site. This was the first French settlement on Newfoundland, and it had some cool models on the inside of the visitor center, and then outside was the ruins of the fort that looked over the harbor. A lot of travel is about the destinations, but I actually really enjoyed the driving part as well. I like seeing the scenery, seeing the landscape change, and just being there listening to audiobooks and music is really soothing to me. The next destination was Cape St. Mary's Ecological Reserve. There's a large colony of Northern Gannets, and I don't think I've ever seen so many birds, which is wild because this year they've gone through an avian flu, so there's even fewer than there normally are. Yet to me, there's still so many. From the parking lot, there was a trek through the fog, and I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to see them, but luckily the viewing platform area was just below the fog, so it was clear skies to see all of the birds. The Southern Avalon Peninsula is really beautiful for its lack of trees and just barren shrubland. I camped my first night at St. Vincent, where the beach is well known for having whales in the spring and summer. I'm too late in the season to see any whales or to see any of the southernmost northern caribou. I don't think I've ever been on a beach that is this long of just rocks. It's probably 2 kilometers long at least, and it's just it's not sand. It's like fist-sized rocks, and apparently it drops off right at the shoreline. It just drops straight off. I went to the Mistaken Point Ecological Reserve Interpretation Center, and when I walked in, a lady asked if I was there for the guided tour to see the fossils. And I didn't know anything about this, but the only way to see the fossils and walk on them is with a guided tour. So luckily I signed up, and I was in a group of 13, and later I found out that there's only 2 tours a day and a total of 30 people each day. So I was actually really lucky to be on this tour. I met a group of 9 women from Toronto who were on a yoga and meditation retreat, and they were quite nice to talk to as we hiked to the fossil beds, and then we were able to actually walk on the fossils themselves. These fossils are called Ediacarna biota. They're some of the first signs of complex life, 500 million years old, which is 300 million years before the dinosaurs. But because they were from the deep ocean, there was no photosynthesis, so they're known to be animals.
He's got an anchor, cord.
The fossil bed is a slab, and there are so many fossils that it's impossible not to step on them, so we had to take our shoes off and walk in socks. But there's still some 7,000 or 10,000 fossils, and the fossil bed extends all the way to St. John, so it's quite extensive. The reserve is close to Cape Race Lighthouse, which has the second reinforced concrete lighthouse in the world and the largest hyporadial lens. But it also has some interesting geology as well, where the shale beds are nearly vertical. On the drive to the fossil beds, I saw 2 trails in the reserve, so I went back to check them out. The first was called Freshwater Cove, and it was spectacular. Wow, that was so cool. I think I got some good photos, but wow, that was so cool. I forgot my camera the first time, so I went down, saw it, took some video, it was like, oh my god, I need my camera. So I ran back to the car, and I ran back to the cove there, Freshwater Cove, to take photos, and I am just amazed by the view there. That was everything I hadn't even hoped for that. I hadn't even thought of that. That was so cool. The other trail was called Rookery, and it wasn't as dramatic, but I really felt like I was on the edge of the world. The rest of the drive back through the reserve was equally beautiful.
I'm at Chance Cove Provincial Park, which is more of a wilderness area. There's a tent. It's the parking lot is just a gravel area where there's I think 6 RV trailers just boondocked. But it's a free place to stay for the night. Looks pretty good. And now I'm just going down to the beach where there's this big bar of rocks around the bay. I'm just gonna check that out and then probably call it a pretty early night. Had a pretty good day. Yeah. I don't know what geological process makes a bar of rocks like this, but I love the sound of rocks back flowing after the tide. So this is actually the first time that I've had a campsite with a fire pit, and it's like relatively early that I can have a fire. So I've got some scraps of wood from my build left over that I kind of brought with me, and so we're gonna have a little fire. Looking pretty good. I'm on the East Coast Trail near Port Kiwan. I ran into the same group of 9 women doing the yoga and meditation retreat that was on my guided tour yesterday. And so that's been pretty cool. Kind of getting to know them a bit better, and you know, some good company and nice people to talk with. Headed to an arch viewpoint, which should be very scenic, and so I'm quite excited to get there. On the way to the arch, I actually ran into a girl, Lily from Ottawa, who was doing the whole East Coast Trail, which is 336 kilometers. It should take her 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how much she covers each day. She was on her 3rd day, and on the first day she'd done 17K, and on the second day 18K. I had just been thinking about what it would be like to through hike this trail when I ran into her, and then she told me she picked this trail because there were no bears, and it's pretty well, it goes through a lot of communities, so it's pretty easy to resupply and you don't have to do a whole lot of planning. But at the same time, she told me a funny story. She'd gotten on the plane for St. John, and it was only when she had sat down in the seat did she realize that the plane was going to St. John, New Brunswick. And so she had to hustle off the plane and then explain to the flight attendants that she was on the wrong plane and that she needed to go to St. John's, Newfoundland. But fortunately, there was another flight about 7 hours later, so she got off to a funny start, but it didn't delay her by much other than a day. And then we saw a seal swimming at the bottom of the arch. Right before St. John's, I drove through a small community, and it reminded me a bit of Greece, and I think it was just because of the lights on the bay. It's about half an hour after sunrise, and I am at Cape Spear, the easternmost point of North America. I was actually... I had always, the whole plan of this, one of the big goals of this trip was to see the sunrise from here. But last night I was looking at the weather and it looked like it was cloudy. So I wasn't really planning on actually getting up for sunrise because I was like, oh, I'm not going to see anything anyways. But I just happened to wake up at 6:30. Sunrise is at 6:12. Woke up at 6:30 and looked outside and saw that it was fairly clear skies, so I came. So I just jumped in the car, woke up, I got up, jumped in the car, drove the
5-10 minutes to the Cape. And here I am, and there's clouds where the sun's rising, but I'm still gonna get some cool photos and experience the sunrise from the eastern tip. Maybe being the most eastern person a bit.
In my mind, I'd always dreamed of this moment being clear skies and a brilliant sunrise, and that wasn't the case, but it was still pretty epic.
So during World War II, a bunker and 2 guns were installed here to protect St. John Harbor. And it looks like it might be open later to go into the bunker itself. But out front is is one of the barrels of one of the guns. The carriage that it was placed on has been dismantled, so which is unfortunate. But they just have the barrel now. Kind of cool. Behind me, you can see the concrete retaining wall and bunker complex where the gun would be lowered and hidden when being loaded or not being used. And then using a counterweight, it would pop up and shoot, and then as it shot, it would fall back down. So I'm gonna walk around the park a bit, see if I can get any other good sunrise photos. That was pretty cool. It was to see the sunrise from Eastern Point and accomplish another goal. And it's exciting to think that I've only been in Newfoundland for, I think this is day 3, so it's not even the end of the trip, not even close to the end of the trip. There's still lots to see and lots to do. I figured since I'm already up, I'd walk the downtown and go to Jelly Bean Row. Most places don't seem to open till 10, like Cape Spear Lighthouse, which I thought was really strange. But that's alright. There's no one around, lighting is good, and there's some old buildings to get some good photos of. Ha! This is super cool. Lots of colorful houses. There's a cat in the window. Well, not where I anticipated ending up, but this little harbor of Quiddy Viddy is quite beautiful.
Signal Hill was another Parks Canada heritage site in St. John's. It was really windy at the top, but you could tell that St. John's was a well-protected harbour. The Geocenter had a small exhibit of Lego creations made by the community. Its main purpose is to explain the geology of Newfoundland, and it's quite extensive with lots of samples.
So Mistaken Point told me that they had a casting of the rock shelf in the Geocenter, Johnson Geocenter in St. John's. And this is it. It's kind of cool to think that I actually walked on the actual surface where this was taken. This is a pretty cool feature of the Johnson Center, is that this is the rock of Signal Hill where the center is built on. So you're actually seeing, in addition to the geology of the province, you're seeing the rock, actual rock of the site that it's on. It is almost 11 and I got up at 6:30 and I haven't eaten yet, so I'm gonna get some brunch.
Alright, brunch was good. And then I was passing chapters and I was like, oh, I want to stop and get a book because I spend so much time sitting in front of Tim Hortons and in libraries trying to back up data that's on really slow internet, but it's through the phone, and so then I have nothing to do. So I wanted to get a book to read for the times when I can't use my phone. And this one not only is the cheapest, but it's about a boy coming from Port Alberni and going to Toronto during like the World War II, a Japanese boy. It's fiction, but I read that synopsis and I saw the $4 and I was like, yes, this is the one. So now I'm gonna go to a library and sit there for a bit and try and upload a video that I couldn't upload last night, and back up my videos and photos on Dropbox so that I can film more, because my phone is always near the limit and the storage limit, and about every day I'm taking like about 100 videos and photos, and it's just really frustrating that I can't get good internet to like constantly back it up, and I have to sit around waiting for it. But that's the plan. And then gotta go to a grocery store and stock up on some more food, because north of St. John I don't think there's gonna be, I think I'm gonna be camping a lot more, and there won't be as many places to eat out. And I also got to do some research and fill up on gas before I head out, and oh yeah, and hopefully get a shower, because that'd be really nice. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to help grow the channel.